Hi everyone, my name is Paige and you are watching Elevate Filipino TV. It's the place where you want to be to discover possibilities, unlock your potential so that you can finally create a life and a business that you love. Joining me today is my dear friend Mark Escano. Mark is a co-creator at Escano Brothers. It is a creative content production agency that partners with the top most influential brands and thought leaders, inspiring millions of millennials. Hi Mark, welcome.
Awesome, Paige. I really appreciate that. I love the intro. I'd love to bring you on in terms of being our intro voice. That was amazing. We may as well just
Oh,
cut that
I'd be
up,
up for
put
it.
it for our intro. So that'd be amazing. Yeah, but it's an honor to be as part of this collaboration with you and all the other Filipino leaders to talk about how we can really elevate the Filipino community. So I'm excited.
Yeah, I'm excited. You know, when we were talking last time, you shared with me your vision and your mission to empower Filipinos all over the world, but particularly, especially those who are in the Philippines, to come to realize and claim their self-worth. But I think before we start talking about how they can claim their self-worth, I think it's important that you share your backstory with us. You know, like I actually know you because you are the host of My Mentors podcast. So you obviously work with top level people in the industry. And you have got to have that solid foundation in terms of your self worth to have that confidence to reach out to people in that level. So, what is the backstory, Mark? And has it always been this way for you?
Yeah, awesome. Even with that, I'm just getting goosebumps just thinking about it because I'm realizing now how passionate I am about this topic. And so for me, with being a business owner today, wasn't always that way, right? Being Filipino, maybe you can relate, maybe your audience can relate, but both my parents, they came from the Philippines,
Mhm.
right? And guess what profession they were?
Health industry.
They were
Yeah.
nurses. Okay. But
Yeah.
I'm surprised.
Yeah.
And so growing up, I thought to myself, I was born here in Australia, in Melbourne. Predominantly my friends were white,
Mhm.
Caucasians, some Europeans, very minimal Asian, some Chinese, Vietnamese, but Filipinos, I didn't have, there was like one other girl in my whole primary school that I knew,
Mhm.
right? And so when I saw my parents come home from their job, I had appreciation for what they do because they'll be able to provide for the family. But being a nurse was never the thing I would ever want to do, right?
Mhm.
My dad worked night shift for about
Oh,
20
graveyard
years.
shift.
Yeah, my mum did double shift,
Mm.
right? I mean, there's a lot of beauty in what they're able to do, and I'm extremely blessed with how they've provided for us. They're able to provide, a house. They paid off their house within 5 years. They got
Mhm.
into the real estate industry. They did so well, but I never thought that I would ever be a nurse back then. And so we were developing our house, designing it back when I was a teenager. And this is when the real estate industry started to boom, right? And so I don't know why, but it took my parents 7 years to build our dream home, right?
Mm.
We went from builder to builder, but me subconsciously, especially being so young, I was into this world about how to design these houses, right? And I
Mm.
had this really huge, great perspective about being a great designer, and I built this interest how to design houses. And I told my parents, Mom, Dad, I know you guys are nurses and stuff, but I would love to be an architect when I grow up,
Mm.
right? I hit year 12. So here it's when I was turning 18 and I got into a big social life and went to parties every weekend, all that kind of stuff. And my dream to become an architect slowly diminished, right? Because at the start of the year, I'd be like, yes, I want to hit this score, hit this score. By the end of the year, I was like, I don't even know what I'm going to do next year,
Yeah.
right? And so when I finished high school, I graduated and I actually traveled to the Philippines for the first time when I was 18 at the end of the year. Really excited about it all. And then it was the day that our scores came out,
Mm.
right? And we were leaving one of the hotels there. I think it was in La Union, where my mum was from. And I remember telling them, "Hey, Mum, Dad, I'm quickly going to check my score." Actually, I didn't tell them. I'm going to quickly jump on the internet. I need to do something, right? So I jumped on there. I looked at my score, and then I looked at my offers, and it was literally nothing, like zero offers.
Mm.
Imagine your whole 12 years of education and getting no offers, right? And so I was so beaten, but part of me was also like, you know what, I'm here in the Philippines, going to enjoy myself. That was my mentality. I never thought about how the current situation is going to compound to my future and what the effects of that would be. And so when we got back from the Philippines, it really started to hit me because my friends started going to university, some were just getting jobs. And I was left there and I'm like, man, I've been a school leader my whole life. I did pretty well, I would say. But for the courses that I wanted to get into, no one wanted to hire me. No one wanted to get me, right? And so the first thing I went to, and I'm sure maybe you can relate being an entrepreneur now, I went to Google and I said, how to become rich, how to make money online. And this is when I was 18, right? And this word of success kept on coming up, and I was looking up all these successful people. But I didn't have any plan, no blueprint, no one to look up to. I mean, back then, like literally 12 years ago, the internet was, you know, they didn't have social media back then, right? We had dial-up for crying out loud. And half the time, my parents would be on the phone line. I couldn't even get hooked up to the internet, so I couldn't use it. And so 6 months went by, and I had no job, nothing, slightly getting depressed. And my parents had this chat to me and they said, look, Mark, you know what? I think the time has come. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And they were like, we think you should do nursing. You should become a nurse. And I'm like, I am not doing nursing. Every Filipino I know is a nurse. All your brothers and sisters are nurses. All your nephews and nieces are nurses. I'm not doing nursing. Right?
Holy
do you know what I was doing in 4 weeks time?
Nursing school?
I was in nursing school. So fast forward that bit, I did nursing for 4 years. I worked in hospitals, but predominantly in aged care. And I think, you know, God has his own way of surprising us and using us to really serve him in his own unique way. And no matter how big we dream, whatever he has his own plan for us, you know. And that was the beginning of my turning point, so to speak, right? So I did that for 4 years. And then I was introduced to a good friend of mine, and he was doing network marketing back then. And so I think network marketing is quite big in the Philippines. It's one of those opportunities that, you know, there's no barrier to entry. Anyone can do it. Oh, yeah. Right? And so I got into that. I did that for a year. But that was the beginning of me to open up my mind about the possibilities of what you can do in life. And you can be your own boss, right? You got to put in the hours. What is, I think it's Jim Rohn or someone that says, you know, work on yourself. Job. Oh yeah.
Work harder on yourself than you do your job. Something like that.
Yeah. So building a fortune basically after the 9 to 5. And so after work, I'd really focus on, you know, who am I and what do I want to do and all that kind of stuff. And then I got into a sales job, right? And then my same friend, because we were working a day job at the same time as well as doing network marketing, he said, hey, you got to check out this blog. It's called addictedtosuccess.com. And it's a success blog. And so I was like, I'll check it out. So in between sales calls, I would be on the call. I would put down the phone and pick up my earphones to tune into these podcast interviews, just like you're doing today, Paige. And that's why I'm super grateful. And I really want to give you my time because I know the impact that this can have on people's lives. I was in this interview and the guy that he was speaking with, he was like, look, if I could give any advice to my younger self, and he was 30 at the time, and my gosh, I'm 30 now. He said, if I was to give any advice to my younger self back when I was 18, right, it would be to just do what you're called to do and follow your passion, right? When I see younger guys now, I look at them and I wish I was doing that at that early age. That's what he was saying. Guess what I did the next day?
You dropped out? Or you left your job or something?
I quit my job. I just quit. Okay. right? And my manager was like, are you sure? Are you sure? My parents like, are you sure? Like, you know, what are you doing? You had a great job, sales job, that kind of stuff. And, you know, especially with the entrepreneur mentality nowadays, we can really raise the roof and break the ceiling. Because my mentality back then, you can see it slowly evolve now, because it was like, okay, nursing, okay, I'm doing this because my parents told me so, right? Then I broke through that and I got into a sales job to say, because I saw people around me living a life, you know, earning 6 figures per year at, you know, early 20s is pretty good. Some of my colleagues were, you know, buying their second houses, they're having like kids that, you know, having such good lives. But to then level up again and being in a secure job like that, listen to a podcast and saying, you know what, you might be making some good money, but are you passionate about it? And I was not passionate about it. So I was like, what do I do now? Quitting my job with zero plan. I do not recommend to anybody watching or listening to this at all. But what I do recommend is if you're waking up every single day, Monday to Friday, I know it's a bit different now being the pandemic, right? But if on Mondays, you are not excited about what you're going to be doing for the next, say, 8 hours of work, and that's happening again for you Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, then it's time to reevaluate. It's time to reevaluate what you are called for to do in your life, right? And this is kind of topic we really want to touch on, especially with today, with our self-worth and the direction we want to go in life, and also what we do on a day-to-day basis in terms of our work and our business, right? So 6 months time, I went to numerous business seminars, looked up all these courses, and within 6 months, you know, I promised my parents, you know, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this. In 6 months time, my savings were depleting so hard, you know, and I'll tell you, I'll add a little snippet in there, because when I did quit, it was the end of the year, and my parents were like, hey, aren't you meant to be going back to work now? I hadn't told them, right? And I said, no, I'm on annual leave. But they're like, but you just said the end of last year, now everyone's going back to work. And I was like, okay, I quit. Yeah. I'm sorry, I quit. But that was that part of me where, and I'm sure a lot of people can relate to this, you know, we always, there's that part of us, we always want to satisfy our parents. And growing up, especially being Filipino, it's like, all right, you know, we respect our parents, we respect our elders, you know, our kuyas, our ates, our titos, and that kind of stuff. But being in a first world or Western country here, it's very different to how our parents came to this country in the generation they were in, you know? And I'm sure you could think about with your parents as well, going to Canada, right?
Yeah.
So for my parents, it was more about survival, you know, get a nursing job so that you can work abroad and you can have a happy life with your family.
Be stable.
Be stable. It's all about financial security. It's like, do it safe, you know? But the question is nowadays, well, what is security, you know? And is your job really secure? 6 million jobs, boom, lost with the pandemic. I know that's here in Australia. I think in America, it's even worse. Philippines, I'm not too sure what the stats are, but it'd be very interesting to see how it is. You know, so this work from home kind of lifestyle is working to our benefit. And these are the kind of things that we established like years back. And now the world is starting to catch up and it's working to our favor, right? So within 6 months when I quit, I then started my own social media agency, but it started very small. And I learned all these tips online. And the thing is, you can learn so much from online courses nowadays. There's so much free content that's available to us. It's just a matter of doing it, right? And so I was learning from these people in my circle, and I said, you know, I can do this. And I reached out to my first client in America. Remember, I'm in Melbourne. Yeah. And he said to me, you know what? If you could grow my Instagram and I get results from this in a month, right? You can do it for free. But if and when I get results, let's talk business. And of course, as I mentioned, my savings depleting, right? I was desperate. I'm like, I'm in, right? And literally day and night, I'd be commenting and posting photos and using my talent from before, which is, creating different designs on Illustrator and posting it and writing the captions, doing everything myself. After 30 days, he said, you know what? I love what you're doing. How much does this cost? Is it, 1,000 US or whatever it is, And as soon as I heard that, I was like, 1,000 USD converted to Australian. Oh my gosh, I could live off this, And so I'm young, I'm a bit ignorant as well, but I took anything. But that's what you got to do when you're younger. When you start your first business, say yes to everything. That's my experience, to the point where you can eventually say no. You can be very selective, right? And so that next month, he actually referred me to 5 people in his network. And as soon as I got that email, I ran upstairs to my parents and I'm like, Mom, Dad, I made it. Remember how I quit my job? I made it now. And I was adding up all the sums and I was just like, we're going to be good and that kind of stuff. And then guess what happened after another month? I lost almost all of them.
No way.
Because I didn't have the right team and I didn't have the systems. I was doing everything myself. So that's been a bit about my story since then. And, to fast forward everything now, I've learned from it all. We've built a team. We've got about, I think, 20 people in our team right now. And it's really exciting because everyone is fired up. We have such a great working culture. And now, especially during this pandemic, it's helped me really reflect on who I am as a leader. I need to step into that leadership role because the next level that we want to hit, especially empowering other people to do the same, I need to become the example. The team isn't going to look to anybody else. Exactly. And if I can't lead, then they might be going to find another job, or they're going to go to get just government payment benefits because there's a lot more benefits with that nowadays. You know what I mean? So, that's a bit about my story. I'm really excited about, building this with my brother, Matty. Shout out to you, brother. Love you. And just, oh man, I feel a bit emotional now just thinking about it because we've come a long way. It's not your average business. Building a family business is a whole new kind of dimension and dynamic. But part of my message today is I really want to instill your self-worth and understanding what is your dream that your heart yearns for every Monday morning. What do you truly want to be doing? And if it's not the thing that your parents are telling you today, especially for my Filipinos out there, right? With all due respect to our parents, please evaluate that. Listen to your heart. Listen to what God's telling you to do. Listen to what God is calling you to do, convicting you to do in this life. Because the sacrifices and say the arguments that you're going to go through with parents just to make this transition is so worth it. My mom, she passed away 3.5 years ago, right? But I made it a point to record her and, as much as I could. And I have these audios of her from phone calls when she was in the hospital on her bed, telling me how she's been inspired and to inspire me to keep going in my business. These are the kind of things where when I look on the flip side of things and how it's really evolved, and I see my dad now being, like our biggest fan, like my brother who's not businessy, but he has the full support of us and him chiming into conversations. Now my wife, Pauline, who helps as well. She's done some certain work with us as well. And she's really my biggest support personally as well. Like it's a real family kind of thing. And that's what I want to spread into the team. I want to spread that into the community and to really help with Elevate Filipino TV as well. So sorry about the bit of a spiel, but I'm just really passionate about it now. Jeez, hey.
No, I appreciate it. And, I actually relate to a lot of what you're saying here. Just for example, for me, when I got started in entrepreneurship, it was also through network marketing that kind of opened my eyes to what's possible. And I love the fact that you shared too that, you know, a lot of it really is connected to our desire to respect our parents, right? Like they just want us to, they just want to make sure that we don't have a hard time like they had it, right? And I think a lot of people resonate with it. In fact, you know, it actually reminds me of the story you shared with me on the phone, where there was a guy from the Philippines who reached out to you and you found out that he's an excellent graphic designer. And, you know, it came as a shock to you when you learned that he was an email support, right? So obviously you touched on it a little bit, but where does this gap come from? You know, a lot of people are doing something that has nothing to do with their zone of genius. And yes, you know, parent, like our desire to fulfill, I guess, our parents' expectation is one, but where else do you think is this gap coming from?
Yeah, that's a really good question, and something that I'm currently in the very moment in the process of trying to reflect on myself. You know, so that same person, I was actually inspired by that last week to reach out again.
Mm.
And so when I look at my team and the potential new team members, we're always looking for talent, right? And the thing that I can see is not only in my younger self, but I see so much passion and hunger within a lot of Filipinos. It was a bit bright. Whoops.
There you go.
There we go. Yeah, with a lot of Filipinos. And so with this guy in particular, when I reached out to him again, he was applying for more jobs during this time. And he said, "Hey, Mark, you know, I've sent some applications. I'm just waiting right now." But part of me was also like, wow, this guy has so much potential to do more work with us, right? It'd be less work for him because he doesn't need to commute to these other workplaces. It's better for him because he's passionate about it, and ultimately he wants to do whatever it takes to do that. And so right now we're actually helping him with his internet connections and getting I think it's the mobile Wi-Fi kind of stuff set up, and helping him financially, because that's just part of our values, right? But in terms of your question, where does this come from? I think it comes down to just wanting to be secure, like wanting to be safe, right? And it's it's a bit unfortunate because as we grow up, we've been taught, you know, when you're young, right? You run out and about, and you're just having fun. I mean, like, do you have a kids page?
Yeah, I do. I have two kids.
Two kids? What are their names?
Scarlett and Zion.
Oh, nice names, by the way. I might note that down. Scarlett and Zion, right? You see them, you know, having fun, you know, just playing around with their toys, what have you, right? But then as we grow up as kids, there comes a time where, you know, their kindergarten or prep teacher will tell them, hey, you can't do that, or that's not allowed. Or maybe I remember me growing up with my parents who were saying, hey, you can't do this, or that's dangerous, you know? And so because we're sponges growing up, it slowly teaches us to say, we can't do anything and everything as much as we want to have fun with things. There are certain rules and guidelines, right? And we take this mentality even more so as we grow up when it comes to our jobs and our businesses, so to speak, as well, right? Because we're always thinking, okay, if I do this wrong thing, what's the implication? What's the cost of this? What's going to happen to me? Maybe it's what's someone else going to say? What are my parents going to say about this? Like, it's so ingrained in us to the point where, you know what? I don't want to do anything that offends anybody else or creates arguments in the family or friends. I don't want to lose friendships. I don't want to speak. I don't want to even approach my boss that I want to have this conversation I'm thinking about. going into a different job or a different occupation in general, right? And I think it comes down to this fear of what's going to happen if I leave this comfort zone, because I don't know if I have what it takes, or better yet, I'm even scared of my own potential, you know, and that can really hold people down. And it held me for years, right? Remember how I was telling you, like, if you think about that thing on every Monday morning and you're like, oh crap, you know, I want to pursue this dream, but then you're staying there. It's that very reason that's keeping you. Yeah, there. So what are those thoughts that are going through your mind? What needs to happen is it needs to flip, right? Your vision and your dream needs to be greater than the cost of you staying where you are today, right? So in context, for me, staying in my sales job for more than 6 months, right, was costing me probably the same amount of what I earned in my job, but I could have been building my business sooner. I could have been meeting the right people, building my network, having a stronger circle of influence. I could have made the mistakes sooner so that I could have learned from them. You know, I call this thing called success equity, right? You can refer it to paying, say, a down payment for a house, yeah, like a mortgage, right? When you're pursuing your dream or building your business, yeah, when you make mistakes, even from the very beginning to you're in a 9 to 5 and you're even thinking about trying to, you know, build your business, you call some people up, you make mistakes, they tell you to, you know, start swearing at you, whatever, those cold calls go wrong. Maybe a friend is just like, what are you doing? If you're going to keep beating yourself down from that and not continue, right? It's the equivalent of you buying your dream house and stopping at paying your mortgage at, say, 50K when your dream house is $1 million. You get to 50K, that doesn't mean you stop paying your mortgage or you're paying down your loan. That means you keep going because you know exactly where you're going, right? So when it comes to success, that is your success equity. You need to pay that off until you reach that destination, right? So going back in terms of what's stopping people from actually taking that step, well, they don't understand what success equity is all about. They're not educated in a way yet in terms of how the compound effect works, right? Doing the good things, the small things every single day, and building these habits and building momentum and seeing how that rewards you in the future. They're just not taught that, right? Because especially when it comes to Filipino culture, they're just taught to, okay, be a great employee, you know, provide for your family. Yeah, get a great job. But it's because the needs for their family at this current moment outweigh their dream and their vision for what they want to do in life.
In their mind, right?
Like in their mind. Yeah. Like their present circumstances outweigh the rewards of chasing their dream. It's a bigger need right now, right? And that needs to switch.
You taught about the success equity. It gives a vision that's actually, you know, people can picture it, right? Because you're familiar with the concepts around it. Now that you've shared that example of thinking of it as if you're paying a mortgage, but except that you're paying a mortgage to your house, it's actually you paying the mortgage to your success. And one of the quotable that I got from here was, fail sooner, right? A lot of the times people get stuck because they don't want to fail. When you said it in a way that you fail sooner, it doesn't matter when you start yesterday, maybe start 10 years down the road, you're still gonna fail. It's just
Yeah.
a matter of actually failing sooner. And I guess what we can say, the currency that you pay for your success equity are your failures.
100%.
I love that because it
Yeah.
actually encourages people to, you know what, don't be scared about failure.
Yeah, for sure. And I want to reference some of the greats right now, and rest in peace to. You still got me?
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I want to reference the greats right now, and rest in peace to Kobe Bryant. Mr. Mamba mentality, because and even Michael Jordan, right? They're on the same wavelength. That they are the greatest of athletes, but also somewhat humans as well, right? Because it wasn't in their triumphs that they learned the best. It's not in their wins they learned the best, right? When you look into Kobe's life and how he studied the game, after every game, he watched his film and he looked at the little things that he did wrong to improve that for the next time, right? When Jordan won, he celebrated like a mini celebration, but he was always thinking, okay, he told his trainer, I'm going to be in the gym at this time in the morning. I need to work on this. He knew exactly what he needed to work on. When they have the score sheet, he doesn't look at how many points he had. He looked at how many turnovers or how many of these he made. Those are the things that are more valuable to us. So going back to the success equity, the quicker and bigger you can fail, that's like a huge down payment to your success. There's nothing greater than that. It's so exciting, right? And that's what we want to do, is we want to empower people, change their paradigms so that they can look at failure and mistakes like it has more value, because it does. You don't see any winners, winning a championship and being like, yeah, I'm going to do this for next time. No, it's the people that lose who are so bummed about it, right? That have the biggest learning lessons, which are more valuable, so that then you can be winning a lot more, right? So with my mortgage, so to speak, and I'm sure you guys can relate to this as well, the first dream house to you might look like an apartment, this nice condo. I want to build this. But as soon as you start paying those down payments, you're like, you know what? I've got some equity in this right now. I'm going to roll this over, and since it has raised in value, I want to get this triple story house, or I want to upgrade to this big house in a nice city. It doesn't have to be like super grand, but you can see that the house can keep evolving because you have laid down payments. You have laid down these success equities inside already. And that's the kind of message that we want to really promote today, is first of all, recognize that you have success equity to pay, and keep raising the bar.
Exciting. This conversation around failure and success equity actually makes, like, even for me, like, I've been an entrepreneur for a couple of years now, and I'm not a newbie when it comes to like certain mindsets that you have to have as an entrepreneur, but it actually makes me more excited to see my next failure, and I think that's really amazing to share with our viewers here, especially if they're just getting started, because it's not a matter of skipping the failure, it's really failing sooner. And like what Mark said here, the bigger the failure, the bigger the down payment. And that's extremely powerful. Now, Mark, when I was looking at your form, actually, it was like, guys, just to give you a backstory, I ask all of my speakers to fill in a form so that I can be prepared for interviews like this. And when I got Mark, it was bare bones. There was almost nothing there. But, just sitting down here with Mark, there are so many deep conversations that come up, and I'm sure our audience appreciate it as much as I do. And so I know that we got to wrap this up, but before I end this conversation, I'd like to ask you, Mark, what is your parting message to our viewers today?
Awesome. That's a really good question. Let me think about this for a bit. Part of my parting message today is to really take some time in your day today to reflect, right? We'll have, ample time today, some of us being locked down, that take that time just to be and be silent, right? I'm a huge believer in God. I have so much faith in him. I've gone through so much adversity, so much success, equity, so to speak, and I'm still laying down my down payments. But no matter what we do in this life, it is not about what we leave, right? It's not about the material things that we acquire. It's not about what we build. It's none of that. It's preparing ourselves for what's next, right? And I believe God is calling me to be an example, especially for those in this space, because for so many times, I've been caught up in earthly and worldly pleasures, right? And it can be very enticing to have lavish lifestyles, to earn a lot of money and to do whatever you want. All that stuff is great. It's just what you do with the resources that God has given us, right? Because at the end of the day, when we pass, God is going to look at your account, and he's not going to look at, say, the $1 million that's sitting in your bank account. He's going to look at you and say, look, okay, I designed you to be this person. I gave you all these talents. I gave you all these resources. Mark, what did you do with your life? What did you actually do to build my kingdom? How did you actually bring people closer to God, so that they can get to know what's most important, right? So for me, to make this relevant, I believe I'm being called to this entrepreneurial space because, just like myself, I've found myself lost, right? Lost in trying to get into a destination to achieve all this success. We have so much self-worth. And what I think God wants to tell you in this is no monetary value can ever define who you are. Whether you call yourself a millionaire, a multimillionaire, a billionaire, it does not define you. Why? Is because God believes you are enough. And that is it.
That's the true self-worth.
That's it. So my message that I want to share to people is, it's not about chasing the money. It's not about the cars. It's to recognize that you're enough, right? You can have everything. There's still a reason why people turn into drugs. There's still a reason why people want to be pursuing these things behind closed doors, because there's something in their heart that they're yearning for, and they feel this emptiness. How many rich people do we know have lost their lives to like suicide, right? That gap there is a space for God, and it is so big that we do not recognize that. And so I'll do whatever it takes. I'm still going through this myself, but to be the example that I too am fighting, but now it's about fighting for the people that I want to impact. So that's my parting message. God loves you. Enjoy yourself.
That I feel like we just had like a live testimony here of what you have yet to, what you're doing and what impact you really have. And I just want to say, it has nothing to do with our interview today, but I absolutely love that mission of yours. And in fact, that's also part of why I'm doing this Elevate Filipino TV, because ultimately I really want to bring people closer back to God too. Just like you, I believe when people tap into their God-given gifts and follow their calling, they're not only able to, serve God, definitely, right? They serve God in what they're doing, but come on now, like you wake up Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and you do something not related to who God made you to be. And it's just such a shame, such a waste of life when there's so much, you know, God has amazing plans for everyone. If you just follow that calling, and I love to knowing that there's other entrepreneurs just like you who's on a mission to not just build, you know, wealth here on earth, but to build the kingdom. So I just love that. Thanks for sharing that.
Awesome. You're welcome. And then in terms of how I can help support the your community with the Elevate Filipino TV, I was thinking about it, and I think there's nothing greater I can offer besides my time. I was going to say, look, if you're a freelancer, then we have this training platform to help train you, build you up, understand your self-worth, and, you know, connect you with jobs. We can do that. If you're a business owner and you need freelancers on your team or just to build your team, we can connect you with people that we've trained up. But more importantly, whether you're a freelancer, business owner, or whatever you're doing right now, and you just need someone to talk to during this time, that you need the support, you have my support. And the best thing I can give is my time. So I'll leave my personal social media here for the interview, and we can arrange a time just to have a chat just like this. I think that'd be fun.
Yeah, that's wonderful. So guys, you know, if you love this segment, definitely share it with your friends and your family, because chances are it's not just going to change your life, but it's also going to change their life. And right here, I'm so passionate about having Mark over here. And, you know, we really are here because we want to shift the culture, you know, and the only way to do that is if together we lock arms and raise each other up. And ultimately, you know, the goal here is so that all of us will be elevated Filipinos. My name is Paige, and this is my dear friend Mark. Make sure you check all the links down below, and we'll catch you on the next episode.